What I appreciate about learning dialectics is that you see everything in the context of history and development of the human species. Nothing is ever inherently bad or good in terms of ideas and the development of culture and the development of economic forces. It's just what happened, but because of dialectics and thanks to dialectics, we're able to analyze all of these cause and effect relationships, and we're able to come to the conclusions of why things happened the way they did. And that is not to say that there's no morality to dialectics, because everything that the human does is going to be, in one way or another, reflect the ideology. And because we have been developing as a species for so long, and we have had developed ideologies already, nothing is ever void of the ideological tinting. So we see everything in the light of right and wrong, thanks to monotheistic religions mostly, because this part of the ideology heavily focused on the judgment and the condemnation and the evaluation. There is nothing wrong per se in the evaluation. It's just that monotheistic type of judging or evaluation leads to the death of people or any types of harm. So this is why I personally am not a big fan of religion. So of intentional labor started such a long time ago, there is really no way of us knowing all of the details, right? We cannot learn about every single why, but we can still strive for it. And this is what dialectic does. It gives us the instruments to continuously learn. It helps us derive information from the past and from the present, synthesize it with something that we already know to be true, check the truth, check the reality, and then come to new conclusions. But these conclusions are never set in stone. They're always flexible to our future development. That is not to say that there are no truths that can be considered concrete. Actually, the truth is concrete. It is always concrete. The abstraction of the truth is only necessary as a part of the learning process. Ilyenkov gives us a great explanation in one of his works on the ideal. There's the question that he poses after Hegel, the question being who thinks abstractly, and it looks at this one article by Hegel where Hegel is kind of poking fun at his audience who thinks that they are the enlightened ones who will understand what the abstract thinking is because they don't think abstractly. I highly recommend reading this article. It's actually funny and there are examples that I love. I'm going to include it down below in the description box. And one of the main conclusions that Hegel comes to and that Ilyenkov repeats is that the truth is always concrete. The truth is never abstract. So these universals that we oftentimes come to, this is a transitionary stage of our understanding. And this is almost a necessary part of learning. We can very rarely arrive at a concrete truth, especially if it's something new that we're dealing with. But as we go through the generalizations, the abstractions, we would come to the analysis of the concrete material reality that we are faced with this one piece, this one moment of material reality that we are presented with. And the realm of the ideal, according to Ilyenkov, of course, is dependent on the material. It is there, and it actually is a dialectical contradiction in itself, because the ideal is and isn't. The ideal is the thoughts and the thought processes that happen in our head when we observe the world around us and participate in the creation of something. It is the process of us engaging with the material world. So the ideas exist, so to speak, in our head, in the realm of this intangible something happening in our brain. It's not just a neural reaction, according to Ilyenkov. It is more than that. But ultimately, the ideal ceases to be when it becomes material, meaning that we start acting upon these ideas. More often than not, we do not just think something, we act accordingly. So we take the information in, we take from this material world that surrounds us, then we come up with our ideal, and then we act according to that ideal. So the abstract and the concrete, the ideal and the material, these two are processes that are dialectical. They are this proverbial snake that is biting its own tail. I forgot what it's called. I'm going to insert the picture in here. And as far as I remember, it also comes from the Greek mythology, and the Greek philosophers actually describe the dialectical truth to be such. So as the comrades and I are continuing to study Ilyenkov, we asked a question from one of our comrades who has a bit more experience with philosophy. He actually has a ton more experience. He's kind of like our teacher. And we asked us about the tools, like the everyday simple tools that we can use. And he gave us some of the questions that dialectics usually use. And I was just laughing at myself just because these are the questions that come naturally to us. And I'm sure most of you use them as well. So these are the questions of what, how, and why? And these questions are so simple, yet they're so necessary. If we don't know what we're talking about, if we don't understand the substance of the topic at hand, then what are we even talking about? If we don't understand how this something we're thinking about or deciding upon or acting upon, if we don't know how it came to be, so we don't know the history of the thing, we do not know the process of the thing, then also we can't really learn about it. Then the why is also essential. Again, it looks at the historical context. It helps us look at the object in its connection to the rest of the world. So asking these three questions is easy in your everyday life, and I love the simplicity of them. However, it is also important to bear in mind that we all have preconceived notions and biases that have been instilled into us through the education system, through all of the media and all of the people we come into contact with. And we shouldn't perceive our own biases as something to get rid of. We should be able to integrate them, to hear what it is they're trying to communicate to us, if we want to use the modern psychology talk. But to be in the communication with our own biases helps us discover the how and the why of our own being, because then we're able to trace what kind of connections have created us as a person, as an individual. So I'm also going to include the article, if I can find it, on the ideal that I was kind of touching upon today in the description below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you have a great day today.